David Prager is Dennis's eldest son, and Marissa Streit is the CEO of PragerU. Here is the update that they've given us, number 14.
Hello, PragerU fam. I am here with David Prager, Dennis's oldest son. And some of you may have heard that Dennis had a very serious injury. It happened on November 12th. And we wanted to just take a moment to remind you what happened, share some of the details with you, and also share with you some pretty optimistic news that we have today. And so looking forward to having you tune into this. Just briefly, for those who are hearing about Dennis's injury for the first time, Dennis fell down at his house on November 12th, and he hit his head. Prior to the fall, Dennis has had 2 major surgeries on his back. He had a fusion surgery, which really gave his back a pretty stiff situation. And so when he fell down, he hit his head, and while nothing actually happened to his brain, his spinal cord was injured. It was not severed, but it was injured. And it was injured at the top of his spinal cord at the area of C3 and C4 that also controls his diaphragm. And so it was a pretty scary situation. I remember talking to David that same day, not really knowing what's going to happen. And thankfully, we first knew that nothing happened to his brain. And so Dennis, to this day, remains Dennis. But he was immediately brought into ICU, and he was under care for several weeks in the hospital, as the goal was to get him to regain function of his breathing. And we've seen some promising incremental improvement. He cannot move from the shoulders and below, and he's still working on physical therapy. And we hope that with the reduction of the inflammation, with time passing, as well as with all the technology that some of the doctors are bringing to the family, we'll continue to see some improvement. And so that is basically what has happened a few weeks ago. And David is here to share Dennis's condition currently and how he's doing.
So he is a lot of good movement. If you're hearing this for the first time, obviously all you hear is bad news. But we've had the ability of having perspective, number one, of the fact that, like you said, he's had no brain injury. The people that have visited him and are hearing him talk now, and he's talking very consistently, he has one goal, and that's to get back to all of us and to talk to the world again. He is talking a lot to people in the rehab facility that he's at right now. He's all there. He's 100% there. When you hear him on the radio, you'll say he hasn't skipped a beat. That's for sure. And God willing, that'll be very soon. He's also eating now. He's drinking now. I mean, these are actually sound like small steps, but they're major steps in terms of recovery. So those are all good things. Like you said, it's an incomplete injury, meaning the spinal cord wasn't severed, meaning that there's a lot of chance for further recovery. The doctors that he's with now, and he's with such phenomenal doctors. We couldn't say that the entire experience, but anybody that's had healthcare experience knows that you rarely say that you're thrilled with your medical team. We are. And they're giving great advice, and they're saying that given the fact that it was an incomplete injury, we can only find out really 6 months and beyond where he will be long term. But we know that long term he will be back on the radio, back doing fireside chats, doing what he does best, and influencing the world.
I would want to add that the reason we're so focused on how Dennis is now able to drink and eat and speak is because for the first few weeks when Dennis was on a breathing machine, he could not do that. And so that was obviously very difficult for Dennis. One of the things I asked Dennis a couple of weeks ago when I was with him, I said, Dennis, now that you can talk, how has it been being in your head for several weeks? Like, what is it like just being in Dennis's head? And he said it was obviously very difficult because he has a lot of thoughts. But what is amazing to me when you sit with Dennis is that he is so grateful. I mean, I was thinking to myself, a situation like this where he's laying down for so long, he couldn't talk for many weeks, and all Dennis can talk about is how grateful he is. First of all, how grateful he is to Sue Prager, his wife. Secondly, how grateful he is to his sons, to you, to Aaron, to the community, to his best friends. People are showing up constantly and spending a lot of time with him. As you said, patients need advocates at the hospital, and so Dennis has had advocates around the clock, and he is so aware and so grateful. And I think all of this gratitude is really what's helping produce these miracles that we're seeing in his recovery.
Yes.
I'm sure God's helping, and
Right.
we have been bombarding God with prayers, and so that has been the plan, that we'll continue to bring prayers from all over the world for Dennis. But it is a big deal that now he's not as reliant on the breathing machines, so that he can actually drink and start eating solid food, and really be able to talk. And what Dennis said to me is that he can already see himself broadcasting again. And he has a lot of thoughts, and he's starting to look into different ways to dictate the remainder of his books, so that we can actually get the final book of the Torah series that he's been working on. And so, he has a clear vision for his recovery. He has clear vision for coming back to us. And I think it's so amazing to watch watch Dennis go through this situation and learn so much about how he handles this kind of fight. He is such a fighter. He still has his routine. He's like, okay, when is the hairdresser coming in? He's so focused on making sure that his hair is cut clean, that he got his shave, that he looks presentable. He's not quite wearing a tie.
Or smoking cigars.
Smoking cigars.
That will be the final step.
But he is drinking his iced coffees and the things that he enjoys.
It's amazing to see. To see that he crossed that precipice is a huge deal. And you're right, he's very grateful. Try to remind him I throw back a lot of his famous lines in his face to make sure he remembers them, which is hard to do sometimes. So, reminding him that, it's not about being optimistic or pessimistic long term, it's about fighting, which is like, oh yeah, I did say that a few times over the last few years. So he is getting all the news that's coming out of the world, so he's fully up to speed. And, he'll still correct my grammar, so I know that that's still happening. So yeah, it's definitely him.
Yeah. And the other thing is he wants us to keep fighting. When I go and visit, and David and the rest of us here at PragerU, he is so encouraged by the fact that PragerU is not stopping, but in fact we're growing. It's very encouraging to him. It's encouraging to him to know that you're still tuning in, that you're still supporting the mission. The mission of PragerU has been so much greater than Dennis. I think we all recognize that, as does Dennis. And as he plans to come back at the capacity that he could come back, he wants to make sure that this enterprise continues to grow. And so
as you can hear, there's a lot of very, very positive news. And Mr. McConnell just saw Dennis. Was it yesterday that you saw Dennis? And Mr. McConnell spent an hour, and Dennis spoke and joked, and they laughed, and he's made a lot of progress since the last time I saw him. So we will keep you informed. Thanks for watching these clips from The Larry Elder Show. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment. More thought-provoking discussions are just a click away, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.